Hello everybody, and this is Dr. Vishal Trivedi from Department of Biosciences and Bioengineering, and today we are going to start the new topic, and the title of this topic is the reproduction in different organisms or reproduction in organisms. So, before getting into the details of what we are going to discuss in this lecture series, let us discuss what are different types of organisms are present on this earth. So, we have different types of organisms. Mainly, we have 5 classes of organisms. One is microorganisms, then we have algae, then we have fungi, then we have plant, and then we have animals. Okay. Within the microorganisms, we could have the bacteria, and we could have the virus, and we could have the other kind of microorganisms. In the algae also we have different types of algae within the on the earth. Similarly, we have different types of fungi. Within the plants, we have mainly 2 different types of plants. One is called monocotyledon plant, and the other one is called dicotyledon plant. We also have the so these are the variations of the angiosperms. We also have the gymnosperms, bryophyta, pteridophyta, and other kind of different classes. Within the animals, it could be invertebrate animals or vertebrate animals, and we have a hell lot of different classes within these 2 groups under the invertebrate as well as within the vertebrate groups. So, but the point what we are planning to discuss is that all these organisms actually have a one thing which is common, is that every organism is taking birth, okay, and then every organism is going for the death. And so, if you see that every organism is taking birth from the pre-existing organisms, and that organism is going for death, and the time period from the birth to death is known as the lifespan of a particular organisms. So, a particular organisms will pursue its life cycle when it is taking birth, and then it continues until it is going for the death phase, and this period which is from the birth to death is known as the lifespans. So, different organisms starting from the microorganisms to very much developed vertebrates like humans have a different lifespans, and if you see on the given table in the PowerPoint slide, what you will see is that there are different types of different types of organisms, and all these different organisms have the different lifespans. It varies from a very low as like minutes in the case of microorganisms, and very big in the case of the plants, and so far the maximum reported lifespan for the plant is 11,500 years. So, as you can see that the every organisms has the different lifespans. So, let us see how and what different types of stages are present in a particular lifespans. So, every organism pursue 4 stages in their lifespan. So, what are these 4 stages? So, there are 4 stages Number 1 is called juvenility. Okay. Number 2 is called the maturity. Number 3 is called senescence and aging, and number 4 is called as the death. Okay. So, what is mean by juvenility? Juvenility means the person, if organisms take birth and then it reaches to a stage and then it reaches to the adult stage. So, that particular phase is known as the juvenility. So, from birth to the adult stage, okay, is under the phase which is juvenility. So, during the juvenility, organism actually goes through the different developmental phases and then acquire the stage where it becomes fully grown adult, and that fully grown adult is can do different other kind of functions. Then you have the maturity. Okay. So, maturity means which starts from the adult, okay, and it goes during the adult stage, and during this stage the organism actually increases its number from using the different types of reproductive processes. And then it comes the third stage, which is called as senescence or the aging. So, after the adult stage and during this lifespan, the organism is getting different types of environmental as well as the physiological stresses, such as like if the adult is going through a very high temperature or high humidity, low water and all those kind of environmental stress, that may affects the cellular physiology, and that actually will start the senescence as well as the aging process. In addition, every organism is made up of the different types of cells, and these cells actually produces a lot of byproducts, and these byproducts are also accumulating within the cell, and that actually eventually causes the death of the individual cell, and at the end the it causes the senescence of the whole organisms. In addition to that, there are different types of organisms which actually causes the disease in the other organism, and that disease process also brings the senescence as well as the aging faster than what it could be for a undiseased individual. So, this is the phase where the health of health declines, and the adult individual fights with these kind of environmental these kind of changes in the body against the environmental or the other kind of stresses due to the diseases, and as a result it becomes very death. And then once these parameter could not be able to be good enough to hold the life of a individual, then the death happens. Okay. So, that is the final stage, and where all the biological activity stops in a particular organisms. So, let us take a classical examples of human being to understand what is mean by all these 4 stages. So, in a human being, the juvenility phase starts as soon as a fetus is. So, if you take an example of human, okay. So, juvenility starts as soon as a fetus is developed in a woman or in a womb, okay, and that fetus develops at the age of 6 months, okay, and then it continues, okay, and it becomes a baby, okay, by the 9 months, okay, and then this baby grows, becomes child, and that child is grown and become the adult. Okay. So, this whole phase, and then this is like 9 months, and then it passes, and then this becomes maybe the 10 years, and then this is actually the 18 years. Okay. And then at this stage, so this is the juvenile phase, where a baby or the fetus is developed in the womb of a woman, and then it grows to a baby, become child, become the adult human being. These adult could be the woman or could be man. Okay. And these two adult individuals, they are, when they reaches to the maturity level, then they can so during this maturity stage, they can actually pursue their life cycle, and then they can produce their offsprings. Okay. So, this is what is under the maturity phase. Okay. And then these two individuals will also go through with the senescence stage. And so, this will go up to the age of 40 years. Okay. And then these two individuals will go for the senescence as well as the cell death or the aging process, and that will continue up to the 65 years, and then eventually they reaches to a old stage, and then eventually they will go for death, and that may happen anytime somewhere around 80 to 100 years. So, if you see in a given if you could have seen in the last slide, the humans have a normal lifespan of 100 years. So, that is an average number what is given for a human individual. So, now what you see is during a period of 100 years, the human is passing through the different life stages. Okay, and different stages it is doing different types of work. In the juvenile stage, it is actually a stage where the undifferentiated mass of cell is being developed as the fetus, or the undifferentiated mass of cell is developed as a fetus, and that eventually after the passing through different developmental stages are actually forming the baby, then the child and the adult. So, at this stage it is very much different from the fetus, and then the adult is at this stage this adult is actively participating in bringing their offsprings, and then that is going through the senescence as well as the cell death stage, and then ultimately it is death. So, every organism in their lifespan is actually passing through with different distinct stages in their lifespan. Okay. So, to understand these different types of lifespan stages, we will take the few examples, so that it will be easy to understand for us that what is actually happening, and on the other hand we will also try to understand different types of concepts what is happening. So, in this class to understand the different stages in the lifespan and we are going to take a few classical examples. So, we will start with the very simple as the bacteria. Then we will go back to understand how the lifespan is happening in the algae. Then we will talk about the fungi. Then we will talk about the invertebrate and the vertebrates of animals. And what you have to understand is that in a given lifespan of an organism, it actually going through the different stages, and these different stages occurs in a cyclic event, and that is why whatever the events are happening in a lifespan of an organism is collectively being known as the life cycle, because this is a cyclic event and where within the lifespan every organism goes through with different stages. So, let us start with the bacteria. So, as you know that bacteria are, so this is a typical bacteria. It is a unicellular organism. Okay. And this is the chromosome or the DNA, and then bacteria could have the plasmids, and I am sure you will discuss about the structures of bacteria and other eukaryotic cells in a different chapter in this course. If you see how the different stages of the bacteria is going to happen in its life cycle. So, if I plot these number, okay. So, if I plot this in terms of time, which is in hours, versus the number of bacteria, okay. So, what we have, okay. So, you will see there is this phase, then it goes like this, then it goes like this, and it goes like this, okay. So, what we have phase number 1, we have phase number 2, we have phase number 3, and we have phase number 4, and this is actually the bacterial life cycle. What is phase number 1? The phase number 1 is called as the lag phase. Phase number 2 is known as the log phase. Phase number 3 is called as stationary phase, okay, and the phase number 4 is called as test phase, okay. So, this time could be in hours or could be minute, depending on what kind of bacteria we are talking about. So, it has 4 phases. Number 1 is called lag phase. So, you know the bacteria actually grows in extracellular media, or bacteria actually grows in everywhere like ponds, in a sewage water, or even in the rain droplets, or in other kind of things. So, the bacteria has to, so if its starting bacteria is in the pond and then that particular bacteria get it to the sewage, it has to accommodate or acclimatize himself to the new micro environments, and that actually allows this bacteria to remain in the lag phase. So, during the lag phase, bacteria actually acclimatizes themselves into this change environment, and that is how it becomes very long or very short compared to the ability of that particular bacteria to adjust into that particular micro environment. So, this is actually a phase where the bacteria adjust themselves to the micro environment, okay. This micro environment, the adjustment could be in terms of the availability of nutrition, this adjustment could be in terms of the pH of the media, this adjustment could be towards the temperature of that particular micro environment, this adjustment could be towards the humidity and other kind of parameters. So, the bacteria which is going in that particular micro environment or the media has to be adjusted, and this adjustment is going to happen every time, because every time, even if it is good or even it is a bad conditions, the bacteria has to adjust. So, if it is a good condition or the favorable growth conditions, this phase may be smaller, okay, and if it is a worse conditions, this phase could be longer. So, this phase will be short if the conditions are favorable. If this is long, if the conditions are unfavorable. Whatever, okay. After that, once it get adjusted, then it starts increasing their number, and that is called as the lag or log phase. So, this is actually a growth phase. Number 3, as soon as the bacteria grows in a particular defined microenvironment or defined volume of a particular microenvironment, it depletes the nutrients present in that particular environment. Okay. So, for example, suppose you take a bacteria which is growing in a drop of rain. Okay. So, the drop of rain contains a definite amount of nutrients. Okay. So, initially it is adjusted themselves towards that particular amount of nutrients, and then once it got adjusted, it started utilizing that nutrient, and then it started growing. But after some time, the nutrients is going to be depleted, and at the other end, since bacteria is utilizing that nutrient, it is also going to produce lot of byproducts or the metabolic byproducts, and that metabolic byproducts are not going to be reutilized by the bacteria. So, as a result, it is going to it is utilizing the nutrients, but at the other end it is producing the byproducts, and these. So, as a result, after some time there will be no nutrition or there will be very less nutrition. So, what happen is the number will stop increasing. So, the bacteria will remain in the same number as it was at the end of the log phase. So, that is why this third phase is called as stationary phase, and this stationary phase means it will remain constant. What that means is that under this phase, the number of the growth of a bacteria is equivalent to the death of bacteria. So, number of deaths which are happening in bacterial number and the number of cells which are new coming up is remain the constant at this stage, and then after some time it will pursue the life like this, but after some time there will be a death phase or there will be no nutrition available, and then the bacteria will start dying in that particular small volume of microenvironment, like just like as we said in the example that raindrop. So, then the death is going to be larger than growth, and that is the fourth stage, that is called as death stage. Now, if I try to correlate or try to correlate these phases with a life cycle of a human being, what I will say is this lag phase is actually the juvenile phase, where a bacteria is actually acquiring or adapting to themselves. Okay. So, up to this, and then this is actually the adult stage, where the bacteria is actually reproducing and increasing their number, and then this is the senescence and aging effect or the aging phase, and this is actually the death phase. So, you can see that whatever is happening in a human being in 100 years, exactly the same thing is happening in minutes to hours in a bacteria, but with a different distinct stages. These are not the same stages what we have discussed for the human being. Now, we will move on to the next example and try to understand something new. So, all the plants actually or the algae follow the similar kind of life cycle, and they have a different similar types of events. So, algae or plant. Okay. So, algae are existing algae or the algae are existing in two different types. Okay. Algae could be haploid or algae could be diploid. Okay. This haploid stage, so and these two stages actually can be interchangeable to each other, and that is how the algae has a very complex life cycle. So, every algae has a haploid stage, and this haploid stage is known as gametophyte, where the number is n. So, this gametophyte goes through a step or goes through a process known as mitosis, and I am sure you are going to discuss about the mitosis as well as the different types of cell division known as meiosis in a separate lecture series. So, we are not going to deal about the mitosis and meiosis, and that actually will cause the production of gametes. Okay. So, you can have two types of gametes. You can have the male gametes, you can have the female gametes. So, you can have male, you can have the female, and these male and female gametes will fuse to form the zygote. So, all these both are haploids, okay, and once they fuse they become zygote, and that zygote is 2n, and that digote then grows and developed into another structure called as sporophyte. The n number in the sporophyte is 2n. The sporophytes, okay, then goes through the meiosis. So, if you know that mitosis actually is just the replication of the same n. So, it goes into the similar, there is no division of the genomic DNA or the chromosome, but in the case of meiosis there will be a segregation of the both pairs of chromosome. So, as a result you are going to create the spores, and that will be n, and these spores then eventually, so you are going to have these spores, and these spores then will, so these spores are going to be n, okay, and then they will go through with the mitosis, and that will eventually will, so by the mitotic events they will grow and becomes the gametophyte. So, now what you see, so you can have a well developed sporophytes and you can have well developed gametophytes, okay. And in the case of algae as well as in the plants, these two different stages of the life cycle can exist in together, or they can be exist as a separate individuals. But what is happening in this, you see, is very clearly, okay. This is a n stage and this is a 2n stage, and these two, see, gametophyte will never be able to form the gametophyte on their own. They have to form the sporophytes, and then the sporophytes has to form the gametophyte, and that is why there is a alteration of generations. So, this cyclic event where a haploid is forming a diploid and then diploid is forming haploid is known as the alteration of, okay, and this is very much common in all the plants or the fungi. So, let us discuss the new aspect. Okay. So, as you might have observed that the different types of organisms actually also acquire the phenotypes from the different similar organism or different organisms, and this exchange of genetic material is always been possible only when the organisms are going through the sexual reproduction or the reproduction where the male or female gametes are involved. But there is a other example where the content mixing or the mixture of genotype is possible, but there is no sexual reproduction, and that is a special class of asexual reproduction where the genetic material is exchanged. And why it is exchanged? Because the organisms normally wants to evolve over the course of time to acquire the different types of genetic material. So, this is a classical examples in the case of fungi. Okay. So, you know that fungi are actually could be filamentous, could be non-filamentous. So, what we are talking about is about the filamentous fungi. So, you can know that suppose this is a fungi with individual cells, and this is a multicellular fungi, and this is another fungi. Okay. I will make it like this, so that, okay. Now, you can imagine that this is a fungi which is sensitive fungi. Okay. So, if you are taking a antifungal drug, this fungi will die, and this is actually a resistance fungi. With just for the sake of example, we will take an example of for example, if you take clotrimazole. So, clotrimazole is an antifungal drug. So, imagine that this is a sensitive strain and this is a resistant strain. Okay. While they grow their filaments, probably in an environment while they are growing individually, it could be possible that they can come together, and then they will. So, what will happen is the mycelium which comes from one and the other could connect these two. Okay. So, while they are growing, it could be possible that one fungus is getting connected to other fungus. Okay. So, there will be a fusion of filaments, which means the nucleus or the nuclear content of the sensitive strain and the resistant strain are going to be mixed, and then eventually you are going to have the chimera, where you are going to have the both kind of nucleus. Then these nucleus will recombine, and you will have a Okay. So, then this is a recombinant fungi, okay, and this will go through the division, okay, and then eventually you are going to have the, again you can have the sensitive and resistance, and you can have the chimera. Now, this is a very classical example where this strain is reproducing in a asexual manner, this also is reproducing in a asexual manner, but these two are actually so the sensitive strain is required or want to have a character which is present in the resistant strain. Okay. So, what it will do is, because it has to survive in this kind of microenvironment where you are applying a drug. So, what it will do is, it is going to ask or extend its filaments or extend its filaments towards the resistant strain. So, this I will write S and this I will write R, and as a result there will be a content mixing, okay. And then this content mixing is actually allowing the two nucleus which are present in the sensitive strain as well as resistant strain come together, and just after the recombination what you are going to get is a recombinant fungi. This recombinant fungi is resistance against the, so this recombinant fungi is actually the sensitive strain, but it now acquired this resistance against the clotrimazole, and then this can segregate and form the individual as well as the chimera, and this whole concept is known as the parasexuality, which is very common in the case of fungi, and it also common in some other organism as well, but it is more popular in the case of fungi where they actually come together and exchange their genetic material, and then that is how they actually acquire the different types of phenotypes. So, one of the invertebrates class what we are going to talk about is the insects. So, insects actually follow a different types of stages in their life cycle. So, we will talk about classical insects known as butterfly. Okay. So, you know the butterfly. So, you can see the slide, okay, and then this butterfly, which is actually the female butterfly, during the mating. So, this female butterfly is mating with the male butterfly, and that is how it is storing, it is actually producing the eggs. Okay. And these eggs are then forming the caterpillar. These caterpillars are developing into another stage called pupa, and these pupa are developing into the adult butterfly. So, it is actually overlaying eggs, and these eggs are normally being attached to a surface, mostly the leaves, so that they can be attached to a surface, and then these eggs grow and becomes the caterpillar. As soon as they form the caterpillar is a very active stage where the caterpillar starts eating the leaves as well as the green part of present on the plant, and during this process the caterpillar actually loses its skin on a several occasion, and this caterpillar losing the skin through a process called molting. So, that molting actually allows the caterpillar to acquire the adult stage or as well as the different adult stage, and at the other end the caterpillar grows into size, and then caterpillar turns into the pupa, and then pupa grows on the same leaves, and then eventually becomes the adult through a process known as the metamorphosis. So, these are actually the different way of devising the development as well as the maturation in the life cycle. So, what happens is the butterfly gives the eggs, and then eggs turns into the caterpillar, and then caterpillar goes through different cycles of molting, so that it changes its skin, and then it becomes pupa, and the pupa actually has many developmental stages, and then those developmental stages are collectively being known as metamorphosis, and then it becomes the adult butterfly. The only difference from the other individual or the other higher organisms is that all these is happening in the outside the body. Okay. In a higher vertebrates, this happens within the body, that all these developmental stages are happening within the particular organism's body. Now, we will move on to the next stage, and we will talk about or we will discuss about the higher mammals. So, we will take an example of a human being. So, you can see on the slide I have given the different stages in which through which a human being is going through, and what you can see is that there is a man and there is a woman. Okay. These two adults. Okay. So, this is adult stage, they are mating and forming a offspring, that is baby. This baby could be girl, could be boy. Okay. And then these two grow into their respective adult stages, means the man or woman, and that continues the same cycle, and it runs like this. Okay. So, you can see that in the case of even the human being also, they go through a cyclic event or the life cycle where they replicate the same stages again and again, and that is how they actually goes to the different stages. So, what we are planning to discuss now is that although every organism goes through a distinct life cycle stages, and the last stage of every life cycle is that it eventually goes for the death phase, the number of organisms does not decline. Okay. And the number of organisms does not decline because there is always a phase where the number goes up, like in this case these two individuals are producing offsprings, and this could be and similarly in the case of bacteria we have seen that during the lark phase they were producing more number of bacteria, and similarly in the case of hen or in the case of butterfly or in the case of other organism also, they are definitely have a distinct phase where they increase their number of offspring. Okay. And that particular process is known as the reproduction. So, all these processes which actually require to maintain the constant number of a particular organisms. Okay. So, reproduction means the process through which a particular adult individual produces their offspring is known as the reproduction, and reproduction could be of two different types. Okay. You can actually have of your own offsprings by a process known as asexual reproduction. Okay. what is mean by asexual reproduction is that in this process there will be no genetic recombinations, or there will be no gametes which are going to be formed and fused. So, this will be asexual reproduction, or I will say this will be the also called as the regeneration of somatic tissue. Similarly, you can have the sexual reproduction, which means it is going to form the male gametes and the female gametes, and that actually will participate into the reproduction to form the offsprings. Okay. So, apart from that, asexual reproduction could be natural. So, both of these are the two mode of reproduction. One is asexual reproduction, the other one is sexual reproduction. The difference is that this one is actually the reproduction without involving the gametes, whereas in this case the two different types of gametes could be involved. And in these two cases, and in whether the sexual reproduction or the asexual reproduction, it could be natural or it could be artificial. Similarly, in the case of sexual reproduction, that also could be natural and that could be artificial, because the medical sciences has evolved so much that we can actually now have the sexual reproduction to be done under the artificial conditions. One of such condition is the test tube babies. Similarly, in the natural conditions you have different modes of asexual reproduction, whereas in the case of artificial reproductions you can have the micropropagation, or in common term it is called plant tissue culture. Okay. So, before getting into the details of these two processes, let us see which process has how they are distinctly what are their distinct features and how they are different from each other. Okay. So, number 1, asexual reproduction can be done from a single organism or the single individual. So, that does not require two individuals. Okay. So, it can be done from a single individual, because as I said, asexual reproduction means indirectly means that the regeneration of your somatic tissue, means regeneration of the body parts. Okay. So, that does not require other individual, whereas in the case of sexual reproduction you need the two individuals. Okay. So, it is not important that these two individuals should be separate. Okay. These two individuals could be on a single thing, but they could be different. For example, in the case of plant, the plants could have the male plant as well as the female plant separately, but there could be a condition where a single plant may have the both male and female plant present on the same animal, same plant may have the both are individuals. Then there is no gametes. Here you definitely need a male and female gametes, Number 3, you don't need any sex organ, whereas in this case you need a well developed sex organ. You need a male sex organ, you need a female sex organ. Number 4, there will be no change in pleiady means the N. Okay. So, if you are actually doing asexual reproduction, if the organism is doing asexual reproduction and the organism is the containing diploid, then the progeny is going to be diploid. If it is a haploid, then progeny is going to be haploid. So, it goes from 2n to 2n and n to n. Okay. Whereas, in this case there is going to be change in pleiady means the adults are always been going to be the 2n, okay, and that will change into n, and that is how it becomes reverse back to and become the 2n, and that is how I said this event is called as alteration in generation. So, where 2n generation is forming a n generation and these n generations are combining back to form the 2n generations. Number 5, since there is no gametes or there is no gametes involved, there is no recombination. Okay, because there is no change in pleiady, there is no genetic recombinations, there is no recombinations. So, that is why the offspring what you are going to get in the case of asexual reproduction is going to be identical to their parents, and that is why these offsprings are sometimes also being referred as clones. Whereas, in the case of sexual reproduction there will be a recombination or exchange of genetic material. Okay. And this recombination or exchange of genetic material is good, it could be bad, because of this process only the male characters are coming into the female chromosomes and as well as the female characters are coming onto the male chromosome. This means there will be a mixing of characters of the two individuals, and these mixing could be good, mixing could be bad, because you may have some bad genes which are present on the one individual and the good genes on the other individual, and that is how you by making a recombinations you might be acquiring the good genes as well as the bad genes. So, the recombination always brings the change in the particular individual, and that could be good, that change could be bad. Number 6, since the asexual reproduction is simply a regeneration of somatic part of your body, it is quick and easy compared to the sexual reproduction, where you are going to have the different types of developmental stages. So, it is going to be more complicated and time consuming, because as I said, sexual reproduction requires a juvenile stage to acquire the adult stage, and then only the sexual reproduction starts. So, it is going to be a complex as well as a time dependent process where your the reproduction is going to start. So, with this brief introduction, what we are going to discuss in this lecture series is about the two things. We are going to discuss about the different modes of asexual reproduction. We are going to discuss about the integrate different steps present in the sexual reproduction, And what we are going to discuss within the asexual reproduction? We are going to discuss about the natural as well as the artificial asexual reproduction. Within the natural, we could be discussing about the budding, fission, and other kind of asexual reproductions. Whereas in the case of artificial, we are going to discuss about the micropropagation. We are going to discuss about the grafting. We are going to talk about the other kind of artificial asexual reproduction. Similarly, in the case of sexual reproduction, we are going to discuss about the distinct stages in the sexual reproduction, and also the events which are happening within the sexual reproduction. So, we are going to discuss about the three things. We are going to discuss about the pre-fertilization events, then we are going to discuss about the fertilization, and third we are going to discuss about the post fertilization events. So, with this brief introduction, we will continue with the next lecture, which is on the asexual reproduction, and we will start with the very simple as the budding and fission, and then eventually we will discuss about the other kind of asexual reproduction. Thank you.